Hello, my name is Peter Buckingham. I'm the Managing Director of Spectrum Analysis. We've worked for many years in schools, mainly big independent and Catholic schools, and we're also branching into childcare and preschool. Many schools want to have a preschool, so we can cover with that. And we've been working in the childcare space with one major client for some years. So we actually have a lot of data and logic around how you look at the supply and demand for preschool or for services for an area. I'm going to take on a PowerPoint. And what we are able to see is the ability to look at the type of information you need if you want to make a very big investment decision. So what we can do is identify areas for new locations. We can produce analysis tools if you are a group and you want to have many or more childcares and opening more sites over time. We understand the potential of opportunities and what sort of makes for an area which needs more childcare. Our work also allows you to understand where your students come from, your pupils, and therefore you can target your marketing. And we have web-based mapping that really makes it a great DIY type of opportunity. So you can look at a lot of these things over time. We have a lot of census data we show people, including all the things to do with population and population forecasts. And obviously, one of the big things of this is to manage risk. It's all about making good decisions in the future. So the first side of this is supply. How many places are there in an area? And the ELC data gives us some 17,900 childcare centres or preschools across Australia. And because we've already mapped all of those, you can see every individual one. And this is just the picture or the legend that shows that if on a white square we have a green block at the top, it's a long daycare. Dark blue on the right-hand side means it's a standalone kindergarten. Light blue on the left-hand side means it's a kindergarten that's part of a school. And the bottom three are different types of outside school hour offers that these places have. So again, we can look at any area and we can see the different facilities and what they are. And quite quickly, we can then go on and click on any one of them in our online mapping. And this is an example of the one that's down here. It's Camberwell Grammar. They have a preschool at Mont Albert Road, Canterbury. It has 27 approved places. It's meeting the national quality standards. And you can see it is just qualifying as kindergarten, preschool, part of a school. So as I think I said, there's 16,500 of these in the system. So if we know how many places there are, what we can now do is ask ourselves, what is the demand? Now, because of the work Spectrum does, we have a lot of different information. The first one is the census. The second one is the population forecast from 2022 to 2032. Now, we're expecting those to change in October this year to move up to 2037. But we can only have what we have now at the moment. We will be upgrading our mapping as soon as that happens. So to give you an idea here, what we're trying to do is not just take one specific area, because many small size standard area 2s or like postcodes may have facilities inside, or there may be a whole lot of facilities just outside their boundary. So what we've done is we've said in an outer metro area, we'll use an 8-kilometre radius. In a middle metro area, we'll use a 5-kilometre radius. And in a really high density area like a Richmond or St Kilda in Melbourne or the eastern suburbs in Sydney, we'll come down to a 3-kilometre radius. That can all move. We can do what we need to do. But to give you an idea here, with an 8-kilometre radius, we've got 12,006 children. In that 8-kilometre radius of the centre of Mickleham, we've got 2,785 long daycare places, or places all up, or proved school places. When we do that ratio, we've basically got one place for every 4.31 children. The Melbourne average is one place for every 2.43 children. So when we look at that, we're incredibly short, and this is an area that's obviously of very high demand. And in our colour scheme, very high demand is the dark green. We look at an area like Clifton Hill, Alphington, which is a bit more middle Melbourne. It's running at a 5-kilometre radius. It has similar number, 12,835 children within 5 kilometres, but it has 7,029 approved daycare places already there. So when we look at that, we see it is actually low demand because its ratio is 1.83 children per place. Melbourne's average is 2.43. It's actually under by 0.6. So we would rate that area as low demand. So if you were just going to go and build your first childcare place, I know there's a lot of other detail, you probably wouldn't be going to Clifton Hill, Alphington. You'd be much more likely to go to areas of much more need for this service. Okay. Now, the other big issue for any area is what is the population going to grow? Again, I mentioned there was data that covers out to 2032. And quite simply, we've broken this down so we can see how many 0 to 4-year-olds were forecast for that area, 5 to 11 in case you're looking at primary schools, 12 to 18 for secondary school, and typical for a school is 5 to 18 for a K to year 12. But if we're talking preschool, we're probably in this area. So this area of Burwood East, just an example, is expected to grow 13.1% of preschool children from 2022 to 2032. That's probably seen as a moderate growth. On the other hand, what you can also see is we've brought up here Tarneet in Melbourne, which is in the Werribee corridor. Pretty similar idea to the Marsden Park in Sydney, or Cobbitty or Narellan, those sort of areas of high growth. So Tarneet is expected to actually grow from 5,930 preschool to 7,691, or 29%. Now, because that area was probably developed a lot more in the last 10, 15, 20 years, already the children coming through that were probably mum and dad, and then they had the kids, you can see that in the 12 to 18-year-olds, that's actually expected to grow by 60%. So the biggest growth is not so much the younger ones now, because mum and dad are a bit further down the life cycle. They're probably in their 40s or 45. The 5 to 11-year-olds are coming, and a big run on the 12 to 18-year-olds. So even though the preschool is still badly probably undermanned, with growth still coming through very strongly. If we want to look at the census data, and here we have what's called the SA3 of Boroondara, which is an area of about 167,000 people, we can see from the all done in our mapping, we can see from the 2021 census average household income. We can see the breakup of the different numbers of children. We can actually see what the forecast population projection is. This can also be done by the children, but this is just total. We can see how many children, when in the census we're asked, do you have boys and girls? Do they go to preschool, primary or secondary? And do they go to government, Catholic or independent? We have data therefore around what those percentages look like for the area. And we also have data on language spoken at home, just in case you wanted to do your marketing in a second or third language. This area, about 14% of the population speak Chinese at home. Some areas we see 20, 30, 40%. The last thing we can bring in here is, again at SA3 level, actually the detail of those ages of the preschoolers. What is the forecast growth for those preschoolers from 2022 to 2032? And how many daycare centres are there? How many daycare placements are there? And right through to that ratio of preschool placements compared to number of daycare approved placements. So we can get a tremendous amount of information for any area we need to look in Australia. So here's just another couple of examples. Here's Keilor in Melbourne. How many kids by age group, how many placements, where that ratio sits. Here is a typical product we do for a childcare centre where we can actually say, take their area they want. It can be a 3-kilometre area. We can talk of how many children live in 2, 3 and 5 kilometres, how many other offers there are, and therefore what those ratios look like. Now, this happens to be for a franchise group, and what they're trying to do is obviously interest people to open other childcare centres and they become part of their franchise system. This has been a very successful way of growing, and they're a good client of ours. Well, I guess I can put who they are. It's Cool Kids. They were very happy to give us a referral. And quite simply, if you choose to go to use this QR code, you'll see our mapping, an example of our mapping. You can also find it in our Early Learning Centre in our website at spectrumanalysis.com.au. You can go and have a play with it has a geographic fence around it. You can't go and look all over Melbourne, but it is about a 5 or 8K in each direction from our imaginary childcare centre at Wheelers Hill or Glen Waverley. So you can please go and have a play with that. And we've also written an ebook. Here's the QR code to access the ebook, or you can access that again through our website in Early Learning. And it gives you a much more detailed look than I can give you here of the type of data that's available to help you make better business decisions. On that note, I thank you for watching this webinar, and hopefully we can be of assistance at Spectrum Analysis in the future for you. Thank you very much.